Dear friends, Shabbat Shalom. How are you today? I'm Mark Golub, and as always, I'm so happy just to be with you on our series Gam Yachad, Together During COVID-19. We're into the month of July. It's the summer. There's been some beautiful weather. A little too hot sometimes. But I keep saying a sunny day makes one feel better about life. And we are seeing a resurgence of the virus in terms of the number of people who have contracted the virus. The good news is the death toll has not gone up dramatically, since most of those getting the virus are in their 20s and 30s, and they tend to recover fairly easily. For those of us in the more vulnerable demographic, we have to remain as vigilant as ever. And look, it's a strain, isn't it? I hear more and more people expressing their frustration over being so limited as to where they can go or what they can do or whom they can see. But we simply have to keep the goal in mind, which is to get through this pandemic, and when it does come to an end, and it will, that we can return to life in health. All of you, all of us. We just want that to be as soon as possible. Also, the state of Israel, which did so very well during the initial wave, has been slammed by a second wave and seems to have ended its severe lockdown too soon and too completely. On May 20th, Israel saw only 15 new corona cases. On July 6th, last Saturday, Israel saw 1,014 new corona cases. From 15 to 1,014. Virtually 1,000 in a week. Now the good news is that Israel still only has some 350 deaths. But the situation in Israel is crippling the economy. People are actually going hungry in Israel. And the situation is fomenting protests in the street. Prime Minister Netanyahu has just come out with a coronavirus economic package. We'll have to see if it helps or not. But our hearts go out to the people of Israel, as it does to any family with loved ones who have been stricken with the virus. So this Shabbat is Shabbat Pinchas, when we read Parashat Pinchas from the book of Bamidbar, the book of Numbers. And one of my favorite passages in the Torah is found in Parashat Pinchas, chapter 27 of the book of Numbers, which describes a fascinating interchange between the daughters of Tzilafchad and Moses. And for me, this interchange says something very important and revealing about what the Torah is and how we're to read and understand the Torah in every generation. There are some who think that the Jewish tradition teaches that the Torah was given in its entirety, once and for all, at Sinai. The story of the daughters of Tzilafchad teach something very different and reflects the way in which our great sage rabbis understood and taught that the Torah is an ever-expanding source of knowledge and understanding and even of revelation. So here's the story of the daughters of Tzilafchad. Their father dies without having any sons, only daughters. And according to Torah, only sons inherit their father's possessions. A father's name is perpetuated through his sons. But here the daughters of Tzilafchad come before Moses and Eleazar the high priest and before the princes of Israel. And they say, in essence, why should our father's name be done away with? Because he had no sons. Give us, they say, give us his daughters, his possessions, to keep his name alive. The daughters of Tzilafchad asked Moses to let them inherit. And what does Moses answer them? He could say, no, you can't inherit. The law is that only sons inherit. Or he could say, okay, since there are no sons, you can inherit. But we certainly would expect Moses to answer with one of those two responses. But lo and behold, Moses says neither. Neither. Not you can, not you can't. Neither. Moses does not answer. Why? Why doesn't Moses? Because Moses doesn't know what should happen in the case of a father's dying with no sons, leaving only daughters. He doesn't know. Moses doesn't know the answer. Now, how can that be? Didn't Moses receive the entire Torah at Sinai? Not only did he receive the entire written Torah, the 5 books of Moses, we learn that God also whispered into Moses' ear the entire oral Torah, the entire explication of the written Torah, which would then unfold through the wisdom of the elders of each generation and ultimately be crafted by the great sage rabbis into the Talmud, the repository of Jewish law. How could it be that Moses doesn't know the answer to the daughter's question? And then what does Moses do? Well, based on the Torah, Moses goes to God and asks God. As we read in verse 5 of chapter 27. And Moses brought their cause before Adonai. And what does God answer when Moses comes to him? In verses 6 and 7 we read, And Adonai spoke unto Moses, saying, The daughters of Tzilafchad speak right. Thou shalt surely give them a possession of an inheritance among their father's brethren, and thou shalt cause the inheritance of their father to pass unto them. This Torah passage in Parashat Pinchas is striking and wonderful for 2 reasons. First, in the context of its time, it expressed an extraordinary respect for women. It was unheard of in the ancient Near East for women to inherit. The Torah changed all that in a simple sentence. And the story also teaches the process of Torah. There's always something new to be discovered and learned in the teachings of Torah. The law was not given once and for all at Sinai. It is constantly unfolding, constantly sensitizing all of us to what it means to be a lovely, compassionate, understanding human being in this very difficult, always wonderful world. I know that for some in the Jewish community, they do teach that God gave everything to Moses at Sinai, and they would find ways to explain why Moses had to ask God what to do with the daughters of Tzilafchad. But for me, the text speaks for itself. And for me, it speaks of the greatness of Torah as an ever-unfolding source of wisdom and of holiness. And when you read the Midrash, the commentaries and interpretations of our great sage rabbis who shaped what we all understand Judaism to be, you see how the rabbis constantly find new ways to understand the humanity of the Torah and how it reflects their understanding of what the God of this universe wants all of us to be. Lovely, caring, loving people. The Torah is all about people, how we are to care for other people, just as God, in Parashat Pinchas, cared for the daughters of Tzilafchad. Okay, we have time for a letter or two from the JBS Mailbag. I want to read a letter that came in from Patty Schach. I think that's how she pronounces her name. She writes, "Hello, Rabbi. Happened to catch your interview with David Rubin last night by chance. Loved it," she writes. "He's a fascinating person, and your exchange was fascinating as well. JBS is one of my favorite go-tos in these days of terribly boring TV pap." And then she tells me something about her life. "I was born into an observant Protestant family. French grandmother who escaped the Nazis in 1940. I couldn't get enough of the scriptures, became disillusioned with the church as a teen, and decided to become a Jew. I married a Jewish Marine, had 2 beautiful sons, and became a better Jew than my husband. Judaism is very dear to me and always will be. Thanks for the excellent quality of programming that comes from JBS TV. Keep up the good work. Warm regards, Patty." It's a lovely letter to me, and it's one that reflects what many people feel, and I am most appreciative, and everybody who works on JBS is most appreciative of this kind of letter, and it's fascinating to hear of somebody who, again, was born into a Protestant family and ultimately becomes a committed Jew, married to a Jewish Marine. Isn't that interesting? Another letter, and this, by the way, this is a letter I received from, this kind of email I received from many people. It pains me, and I want you to know we're working on, well, you'll hear what he said. This is written from Dr. Stanley and Elaine Weiss. They write, "We are very concerned that our provider, Xfinity, which is Comcast, does not give us access to watch JBS, one of the most informative, fair TV presentations on matters of the Middle East, plus a wide variety of other shows of interest and entertainment not solely enjoyable to Jewish people. Please urge our provider to enable JBS on Xfinity." And again, it's signed by Dr. Stanley and Elaine Weiss. It is one of my greatest concerns. that Comcast Television is the only major television provider that does not carry JBS. It is the largest system in America. It reaches more Jewish communities than any other system. Chicago, Boston, Atlanta, Dallas, or Houston, Florida, San Francisco, St. Louis. And if Comcast does not carry JBS, tens of thousands of Jews can't watch the one serious Jewish channel on American television, can't watch Friday night or Saturday morning services, either from Central Synagogue or from the Hampton Synagogue. So if you know of anybody at Comcast, just say to them, it's time. Add JBS and make a real difference in their subscriber and their customer base. They'll be doing an enormous favor to all the Jews and non-Jews who would benefit from watching JBS. Okay, a reminder that if you have a simcha coming up, which you'd like me to acknowledge, or a name of a Misha Berach for someone who's ill, or a yortzeit you'd like me to mention, please send me your information, and I'll be honored to read it on JBS. Email your information to jbscommunity@jbstv.org, or mail it to me at JBS, Post Office Box 360, Stamford, Connecticut 06904. And you can always email me directly at rabbigolub@jbstv.org. I'll do my best to answer all of your emails. And so until the next time, I'm Mark Golub. Stay safe and be well, my friends, and Shabbat Shalom.